18-hour days and panic attacks. Former Ozy staffers allege an abusive environment for 2 weeks leading up to that night, Rodriguez said recently. She had been working roughly 18 hours a day every day to create the branding for The Carlos Watson Show, a talk show named for and hosted by the CEO of Ozy Media. As a creative director at Ozy, for which she'd worked since 2017, she was used to working long hours to accomplish difficult tasks with little lead time. But this was worse. The good news was that it was not a heart attack. Our doctors in Chula Vista, California told her later that Sunday morning it was a panic attack. But it had been bad enough that she needed to take a couple days off work. I really didn't want to let him down, she continued. I never want to let him down. If you met him, you know he's a very charismatic leader and he's not someone you want to let down. Rodriguez, whose story was also reported by Forbes this week without her name, said she ended up in a 6-week outpatient program for extremely depressed people to get better. In December, Rodriguez's doctor's office told her that Ozy had asked for documentation to support a doctor's note she provided. That by itself was not so unusual, but when she emailed her doctor's office a signed form allowing it to provide the information, she said, she got a call from a nurse who told her that the human resources director at Ozy who had called had been pushy and aggressive and asked to review Rodriguez's medical records. But Ozy did not have someone in that role, the company barely ever did, Rodriguez said. When Rodriguez asked for the person's name, she said, the nurse replied, Samir, which is also the name of the company's co-founder and chief operating officer, Samir Rao, who is now on leave from Ozy after a New York Times expose alleged he impersonated a YouTube executive on a call with Goldman Sachs.
Ozy's board of directors announced Tuesday it had hired the law firm Paul, Weiss, Rifkind, Wharton, and Garrison LLP to conduct a review of the company's business activities, The Wall Street Journal first reported. The board also said Rao's leave of absence is pending the results of the investigation. The Times wrote that Watson attributed the incident to a mental health crisis and shared some details about Rao's diagnosis. Samir is a valued colleague and a close friend, Watson told The Times. I'm proud that we stood by him while he struggled, and we're all glad to see him now thriving again. On Monday, Watson shared an email he sent his staff that referred to the Times story as a ridiculous hit job and once again referred to Rao's impersonation as a personal mental health issue. Rodriguez went back to work for a time after she completed the program. It was not until she tested positive for COVID-19 in February and was asked to work through it that she decided to quit, she said. It's like a cult, Rodriguez said. I really felt like I would be nothing without them because they had given me so many great opportunities and that I would let them down severely if I ever quit. Several of these former employees said they were angered after reading the Times story and seeing that Watson had attributed Rao's impersonation of a YouTube executive to a mental health crisis and said the company stood by him, noting that they'd seen Watson lacking support and empathy for such concerns with other employees in the past. Why join Ozy? Carlos and, to a lesser extent, Samir are the most ambitious people you've ever met, said a former staffer. Their goal was to build the most impactful media company over the next 2 centuries, a company that was going to survive not just for the short term but be a major brand for years and decades and generations to come. The former staffer said they knew the idea that Ozy would be able to survive, much less dominate the industry, for nearly that long was questionable. But that type of lofty ambition was emblematic of Watson and the culture he oversaw at Ozy, and employees were motivated by at least some of it. Ozy's editorial team did undertake ambitious reporting projects. In 2017, Ozy reporters visited all 50 states for a project called States of the Nation. The next year, Ozy announced around the world a commitment to report 3 stories in every country. The project was completed, though they did group some smaller countries together. The hope was that we would get appreciation from readers, who liked feeling like they were hearing about stuff that mattered before the mainstream caught on, said another former staffer. But I think those of us who were there long enough realized there weren't all that many readers who cared about that. The editorial demands were sometimes untenable, or doable only through long hours. In 2014, Ozy raised $20 million from German publishing company Axel Springer, adding to its $5.3 million in seed funding from Laurene Powell Jobs, Ron Conway, and others. But former staffers found that, despite raising all that money, the company did not go on big hiring sprees like others in digital media at the time. The former staffer who discussed the hope for appreciation from readers said Ozy was very nervous to ever truly staff up the way they needed to because of the massive and multiple rounds of layoffs that other digital media companies went through during the mid and late 2010s. They just thought they could keep extracting more and more from the people there, that former staffer said. They brought in very talented, motivated, excited people and just used them up. Watson had high expectations for story output. One former staffer recalled that in the publication's early days, Watson seemed to expect a full-time editorial staff of about 4 writers and 2 editors to produce 40 high-quality magazine articles per week. Former staffers found themselves in positions of authority, managing others, or even entire departments, while in their 20s. Rodriguez, for example, was hired as a graphic design intern when she was still in college and was promoted to creative director just 2 years after she graduated. It was an experience that one of the former staffers said empowered them and would likely have been unavailable at a legacy media outlet. But the position of authority came with being overworked. They were expected to do that job and the work of their old one at the same time, 3 of the former staffers said. Former staffers said they often found themselves unable to say no to Watson, whether about a story idea he floated or another assignment he wanted done quickly. Carlos was a bully, a former staffer said. He would do whatever it took to get what he wanted. He did not accept no for an answer. Understaffed and overworked.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.